Good morning, everyone. Can we hear me all right? Great. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for having me. My name is Kallum McDonald. I'm a botanist by training, but I've branched off into aquatics over the past few years. I have a bit of a history with weeds and invasive species. So I've done a lot of weed pulling. I come from a farm, and I've moved a lot into some of the invasive species that can threaten our lakes, rivers, and wetlands. So I'm excited to talk to you today about some of those species. Some of my favorite ones are highlighted up here on the screen. So let's dive in. Sorry, am I in control of slides, or you control it? Thank you. Okay. All right, so what is an aquatic invasive species? So this is referring to a species that, in the case of Alberta, did not evolve here and has historically not been present here for a long time. So this is referring to species typically since colonization that Europeans, industry, in the years since Europeans came to North America, have brought to our lakes, our rivers, our wetlands, and have competitive advantages over our native species, allowing them to proliferate, outcompete, and overtake our lakes, rivers, irrigation canals, wetlands, things like that. So I'll start off with some of the new species. So these 4 fish species are all newly detected in Alberta within the past year and a half. So Alberta is pretty sheltered in terms of invasive species in North America. There's a lot of species that are pretty abundant in, say, Ontario or the northeastern US that just haven't really come to Alberta much. But we are not immune, and new things are showing up. So this fish at the top there, that is a common carp. If folks are familiar with Australia, it's taken over the Murray-Darling Basin of Australia, essentially the eastern half of the continent, representing between 80 and 90% of the river biomass in that part of Australia. So it's an incredibly voracious fish. They eat a lot of food. Being a member of the carp family, a lot of carp species are just very voracious. They eat a lot of food, they eat a lot of types of food, and they can reproduce very quickly. I was told, though, by the fisher who caught that, apparently it was the fight of his life. They can be very fun to catch, which may be the reason why it showed up here. So common carp are not stocked here in Alberta, and they're not previously known to occur here. But one was pulled out of East Pitt Lake, north of Wobman, and that's a bit concerning because East Pitt Lake is an isolated water body, no inflow or outflow, and you have to hike in about 10 minutes to get to the lake. So how did that fish get there? And unfortunately, the answer for probably all of these fish on this page and a lot of the occurrences of non-native fish in Alberta is people putting live fish in buckets and conducting illegal live transfer and release of fish into our water bodies. So people putting a fish in a bucket, driving it many, many kilometers across the continent, to drop these fish into our waterways, which is illegal behavior and is very concerning. I'll stay on that slide. Yeah, so for the 2 middle fish there, we have a largemouth bass. Folks may recall the province used to stock those. They didn't survive our winters very well. That stopped quite some time ago, but that was found in Cardiff Trout Pond, which is just north of us a little bit. That's another isolated pond. So how did it get there? We're not totally sure. It probably won't survive the winter, but that's just another fish that we have not stocked in a long time. So how did it show up there? Also in Cardiff, we have the pumpkin seed, which is this lovely fish here with that fantastic black and red there on its cheek. Pumpkin seeds are very cool visually, but they are also not native to Alberta, and that showed up in Cardiff Trout Pond as well. And last but not least, crappies, which is a horrible name, but crappies have first been detected in Alberta last month. We have never had them in Alberta before. They are native to parts of North America, closer to the East Coast, but they have now occurred here, and they've been deliberately spread across much of the continent. So within the last year and a half, we have 4 new fish species, or I guess the largemouth bass is kind of an asterisk, but new fish species being detected that are not stocked here. They are not native to Alberta. They did not evolve here. They're not part of the natural food webs and ecosystem cycles that we have here. Goldfish. So goldfish are becoming a massive problem in Alberta. We have over 100 goldfish infested ponds in the province at this time. Goldfish, obviously a popular aquarium pet, but unfortunately folks seem to, get tired of having little goldfishy around. Maybe it's too expensive to feed it. It's grown too big for its tank. And so people often think, oh, I want to be benign and humane. Let's release goldfishy into the neighborhood pond and let it live out its life there. As you can see on this slide, goldfishy does a lot more than live out its life. It gets to work. So goldfish can reproduce incredibly quickly, and they can grow a lot larger than you might expect. So these photos are both from Alberta. This is Nicole Kimmel, my old boss, and our provincial government's Aquatic Invasive Species Specialist. So that's one of the largest goldfish she ever encountered. That was from an urban stormwater pond. And just for some context of numbers, in Edmonton last year, there was a treatment of a pond in the west side. They drained it down and removed 40,000 goldfish, 1.5 tons of goldfish from a single urban stormwater pond, which is just incredible, an amount of biomass, right? If there are that many fish weighing that much, how much food are they eating? They're eating aquatic insects, aquatic invertebrates, aquatic plants, and they are taking away all that food, biodiversity, and habitat from the other species. And in particular, if they get out into our natural waterways, our lakes and rivers, then they are competing directly with our lake sturgeon, our Athabasca rainbow trout, species like that, for food and resources, which is very concerning. And then just last month, sorry, I'll stick on that. And then just last month, the town of McGrath down in southern Alberta, in their fishing pond, they had goldfish released there, I believe for a second time. They'd already had one treatment to remove the goldfish. Someone put goldfish back in, and they removed 65,000 goldfish. They were smaller. They weren't as big as these ones from the Edmonton removal, but 65,000 is the highest number I've seen. So it's just a phenomenal reproductive capacity, and they can just eat and eat and eat and become just such a dominant presence in our waterways. Next up, I'll talk about mussels and clams. So if anyone has spent time in Ontario or heard the terrors of the Great Lakes, you may be familiar with zebra and quagga mussels. So zebra and quagga mussels are freshwater organisms. They attach themselves onto hard surfaces, so rocks, wood, concrete, metal, boats. And these organisms are filter feeders. And so they actually do clarify the water. The water gets a lot clearer. The Great Lakes have never looked better, but they have absolutely devastated the fisheries of the Great Lakes. They've extincted several species of fish. A couple dace species have gone extinct because of just absolutely collapsing the food web of the Great Lake. Invasive mussels now cover thousands of kilometers of the Great Lakes, just covering the bottoms of the lakes, covering the rocks, shells washing up on the beaches, Lake Winnipeg. I think maybe let's hop to the next slide quick. Yeah, this is Lake Winnipeg. So Lake Winnipeg first detected invasive mussels back in, I want to say 2011 or 12. This is now what some of the shores of Lake Winnipeg look like. So it's incredibly amazing what these species can do. If there's a die-off, all those shells wash up. And one of the key aspects that makes invasive mussels so frustrating is that they clog water intakes and pipes. So in Ontario, they've actually had to duplicate some of their water and power plants that are associated with the Great Lakes so that they can shut down one facility, scrape out the mussels, and they start up the other facility to provide water and power to their industry and their people. So it's pretty horrifying what a maintenance cost that is. Not too relevant in where we are right now, but southern Alberta has one of the most impressive irrigation systems in North America, and the irrigation districts are very concerned about the potential impacts of these zebra and quagga mussels on our water-dependent infrastructure. Just a quick, I know I don't have a ton of time, but I'll quickly mention, we do have native mussel and clam species in Alberta. People seem to not be terribly aware of that, so I just like to throw that in. How do we tell an invasive one versus a native one apart? Well, it's attachment. The invasive mussels, they attach themselves onto hard surfaces. So an attached mussel is an invasive mussel. Our native mussels and clams, they have different shape in general. They don't have that kind of hatchet head shape like the zebra and quagga mussels. And our native mussels and clams just sit in the sediment. So I call them mud sitters. They just sit in the mud, they sit in the sand. They don't attach themselves onto hard surfaces. And if you ever see one, take a photo, send it to me, and I'll be happy to help figure out if it's native or invasive. I'll dive into plants now. As a botanist, I could talk about plants until 2 a.m., which is almost what I did last night at the Wabamun Lake AGM. We had a lovely time. I'm very tired. My voice is sore because I was talking about all of these. So I'm going to take this slide. I'll introduce everyone to a friend of mine, Balthazar. So Balthazar is the 13-foot tall invasive Phragmites that was found here in Edmonton, which I cannot hold up in this room. So Balthazar is that incredibly long grass growing along here. This is a stormwater pond in Spruce Grove. That's where it was found. This particular tall one was found in the city of Edmonton, but that Spruce Grove pond gives you an idea of what it can do to our wetlands and shorelines. So I'll move for the camera here. But yeah, Balthazar is 13 feet tall. That's our record in Alberta. In Ontario, I've heard they've had up to 20 feet tall with their longer seasons and their higher temperatures. So this is essentially not related to bamboo particularly, but it's like an invasive bamboo, if you will, in that it grows incredibly dense. And so that was a 105-meter long population on that stormwater pond. And there is nothing else alive in that population. Oh well. So there's nothing else alive in that population. It's a bulldozer of a species. So it's the only aquatic plant I've seen that can outcompete cattails, which are our dominant shoreline aquatic vegetation. Cattails are very abundant, very prolific, and competitively a very powerful species, and they are no match for Phragmites. Thank you. So there's kind of the idea of Phragmites, an incredibly tall grass, these kind of torch-like seed heads. I have to keep mine wrapped up for permit reasons because it's otherwise illegal to possess. And those are viable seeds in there, so that's why I have it wrapped up. But that's invasive Phragmites. We do have a native subspecies of Phragmites. I'm a nerd, I'd love to talk about it, but for time's sake, I'll leave it. If you ever see a grass that seems way too big, take a picture, send it to me, I'll help you figure it out. Next up is flowering rush. So the largest infestation in Canada is unfortunately here in Alberta. It's in Lake Isle, which is west of us about an hour. This is the picture of the west end of Lake Isle. That's after 3 years of control by fan boat by the province, and that's still how dense the flowering rush is there. So it's incredibly competitive. It has annihilated all the other aquatic vegetation in that area, and it's essentially the only thing that remains. The cattails are still doing okay along the edge there, but nothing else really deeper into the water can persist. Flowering rush is beautiful. It has these lovely pink umbrella-shaped clusters. I can see why people like it in their water gardens, but unfortunately this is what it can do to our natural waterways and become a major impediment to boating, kayaking, fishing, swimming, etc. Next up, Himalayan balsam. Himalayan balsam, often called poor man's orchid, because it's an incredibly vigorous plant. It grows very easily. I once had it in my garden once upon a time. I did not let it escape to any of our waterways or wetlands, and it's been eradicated, but it's a beautiful plant. And as you can see, this is a kind of a drying pond here. You can see what's left of the cattails in there, but otherwise the Himalayan balsam is just taken over. And so that kills off a lot of important native species, especially medicinal species. Things like mint and stinging nettle have lots of important indigenous uses, and Himalayan balsam likes the exact same type of soil and soil moisture as those species. So that's a direct competition challenge posed by this invasive Himalayan balsam. And it is an annual species, it's not a perennial. That doesn't stop it from growing 9 feet tall. That's definitely on the extreme side for sure. I like to point out my extremes, but incredibly vigorous plant and sure beautiful, but quite a challenge to manage. So what do I do in my job? So at the Alberta Invasive Species Council, I do education outreach like this. So I have my booth over there. I have lots of free merch. Please go help yourself to all the free merch. There's goldfish gummy candies. I have lots of fun stuff over there. I do presentations, and I also, sorry, go back to that. And then I also do a fair bit of monitoring. So I do kayak surveying. I have waders that I put on and I get right into the water. I look for the invasive mussels. I look for the aquatic plants. I also do some invasive mussel villager monitoring. Thank you to Alms for helping me with that. I gave you guys a bag of muddy water and you guys turned it into a sample. So thank you to Alms for supporting that, as well as Alberta Environmental Protected Areas. Along with Alms and lots of other organizations, I also contribute to eDNA sampling. So we collect a little bit of a water sample. The water flows through a filter, DNA gets stuck on the filter, and then there's a lab at the University of Alberta who can detect different species based on the DNA that was present in the sample. So that's a very useful monitoring technique, especially if, say, invasive mussels are, if they happen to establish on the bottom of a lake. I'm not particularly an aquatic organism. It might be hard for me to see that or find that, but the DNA could be a way that we can detect that before the infestation gets out of hand. And I'm hoping to get an Ekman dredge. So Kristen, I might bug you guys to borrow that next summer to test it out. But that could be a nice new way to try invasive mussel monitoring in soft substrate water bodies. So again, I've got lots of merch. We did a whole new round of graphic design. We had a lot of fun with it. Got some native species on the Alberta logo there with like our lake sturgeon and brook stickleback and a whole bunch of other critters. So on my booth, please help yourself to all the free merch there. There's lots of ways to report invasive species or to get in touch with me. Please text or email me photos of plants. No context needed. Someone sends me a plant, I'll try to identify it. Same thing with shells, especially. If you're at a lake or river, you see some shells, please snap a picture. At least send it to me, Alberta Environment, ALMS, someone. We need lots of people looking at shells if we want to catch these invasive mussels before they come to Alberta. So awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to take questions.